TFA fam, how do ya do? Welcome into the first look at the Week 15 waiver wire ads. It doesn't feel real, man, that we are here. The first week of playoffs are upon us. Hopefully, I know we had a couple of questions today, guys, that were starting their playoffs this week. Hopefully, that is not you. Hopefully, you're starting them this week, and hopefully, you don't need anybody off of waivers because it's not a fantastic week either. So, Kev, let's just go ahead. Let's give the people what they want. Let's dive right into it, man. Kick us off with the QB options for Week 15.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, if you're in the playoffs, you're probably not needing these guys. But who knows? Maybe, maybe you had Lamar Jackson, and so you're kind of streaming here. And obviously, with what happened with Huntley today was not good. But we got Brock Purdy starting things off, and Mr. Irrelevant just keeps it rolling here. Only rostered 9% of leagues, completed 16 of 21 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a 2-yard touchdown, good for 21 fantasy points today. And the 49ers just absolutely spanked the Bucks. This is 2 weeks in a row. They have just put it on two teams that are looking to be in the playoffs. So this week they play Thursday night. They play the Seahawks defense that allows the 13th most passing yards, the 14th most touchdowns, and the 15th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and ranked 20th in pass DVOA. So it's not a bad matchup. I don't know if I'd want to trust him, but he has looked pretty good so far in back-to-back weeks. Here, and they still have a lot of weapons. Deebo Samuel did go down in that game, but it sounds like it's not as bad as what they thought it was going to be. They thought it was going to be a knee injury. It looked pretty bad on the field, but it came out now. It sounds like it's maybe not as significant now. It sounds like it's maybe an ankle injury, possibly maybe like a high ankle sprain or something like that. So we'll see on that. That's something we'll monitor. Russ Wilson. I didn't know where they decided he just wanted to go out and ball today. Looked like Russell Wilson of old. Rostered 48% of leagues. He was on pace for his best game of the season, completing 23 of 36 for 247 and 3 scores. He also rushed 4 times for 57 yards, which is a season high for him. However, he sacrificed himself and he got a concussion. He was running. It was in the fourth quarter. Was kind of getting close. Picked up a first down, pretty close to the end zone, and he got knocked out of the game after that with concussion. So we'll really have to monitor that. And I don't even know if I'd really want to go back to him again, but he did look really good. Kind of like an old Russell Wilson type game. They do get a really good matchup this week against Arizona, who allowed the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks, ranked 25th in pass DVOA. So it is a really good matchup, but I don't know if Russell Wilson will be ready to play this weekend or not. Coming off concussion, we've kind of seen now with these guys. Normally, they're not back after 1 week. But next up, we have Ryan Tannehill. They get the Chargers, 33% rostered. Despite the strong start today, the Titans dropped their third straight game. Tannehill completed 25 of 38 for 254 and 2 touchdowns. This week, the Titans take on a Chargers pass defense that ranks 16th in pass DVOA. You could go there. And then the other guys, you have to be pretty damn desperate to play Matt Ryan or Mac Jones, despite them both being in good matchups. Matt Ryan takes on the Vikings, who are just a terrible defense. I think they've allowed QB 1 week in 7 straight weeks now. But I can't trust Matt Ryan. I just can't do it. And Mac Jones, if you're completely desperate, they do play the Raiders, who rank 30th in pass DVOA, and they allow the 5th most fantasy points to quarterback. So those would be kind of the guys that I'd be looking at.
Not a ton of love here at running back either. I do want to start off with some situations of people that might be, curious. First with the Giants situation. Obviously Saquon Barkley played limited snaps today, but they were also getting blown out in that game. After the game, he did say like he felt fine. He'll be good to go next week. I'm not interested in any of these backs. Both Gary Brightwell and Matt Breida saw 22 snaps. Breida ran one more route. I'm just avoiding that situation entirely. I don't really want anything to do with it. And the same thing with the Seattle backfield. We got the news about an hour before the games were starting that Tony Jones was going to be the quote-unquote starter here, and he ended up seeing a measly 5 snaps compared to 49 for Travis Homer. But even if Walker and Dallas miss next week, they have Sam Fran on deck, so I'm not really interested in Travis Homer at all. And then some guys you can look to add. Chuba Hubbard, he might be owned, but I thought he looked better than Foreman today. Both of these backs had 74 rushing yards, and Chuba did it on 7 fewer carries. Hubbard's also been involved more in the passing game as well. They do have a favorable 2-week stretch here coming up against the Steelers and the Lions. We saw Mike Boone get injured, so if you're desperate and you need Marlon Mack, he should be out there and available for you. Stepped in, saw 6 opportunities. Not chasing the points here. Obviously, he had 60 receiving yards and a touchdown. But again, if you're desperate in a deeper league, Max should see some more touches and be more involved going forward if Mike Boone does miss time. And then really, it's just like it's a pretty good week for just picking up some handcuff type options. So Kenneth Gainwell, if he is out there, you need to add Kenneth Gainwell. Hopefully, you added Jarek McKinnon. He's up to like 30 something percent rostership on ESPN now. Likely not available. He was someone I kept trying to tell everyone to add. He is now probably more widely owned, especially after this week. But guys like Jordan Mason, if you're really desperate, Dario Ogunbowale, it does seem like Damian Pierce is going to be okay with the ankle injury he saw, but it could be a situation where they don't give him the type of workload they have been giving him. And if that's the case, I think Dario Ogunbowale is the guy who makes the most sense. It should be next up. Again, this is a desperation play. Not going to really be looking to him to pick him up and start him or anything. And then again, Boston Scott, JaMychal Hasty. Obviously, we had Daryl Henderson waived, Keontae Ingram, guys like that. I think it just more sets up more for a handcuff, stash type of week than any of these guys you really need to think about going out and just grabbing.
Yeah, I agree. Jarek McKinnon today was just went absolutely off. 2 touchdowns,
Yeah.
over 100 receiving yards. Played really, really well today. That pass that from Patrick Mahomes was unreal. But I don't even know what he.
Yeah.
I don't even. The man has some big balls to be able to be able to even make that throw. Like nobody else makes that throw. Like just throws it up there. Just no look, throws it out there, and anyways, I don't know. That was wild to me when he did that. But anyways, let's jump over to wide receivers here. It's kind of a similar situation. Obviously, there's a little more depth here at wide receiver, but Donovan Peoples-Jones still only rostered in 44% of leagues, targeted 12 times today for 114 yards, 19.4 PPR points. He led the team in targets, receptions, and yards. He also had a few shots of scoring a touchdown, both failed to convert. But Donovan Peoples-Jones looks. I mean, he looks kind of like he's been the real deal. He's kind of been really solid all year. I'm surprised he's available in this amount of leagues just because he's been a really solid option all year. I mean, especially through waiver or through bye weeks and everything else. Like he's just been a pretty rock solid option. So he should definitely be rostered more. And then DJ Chark, thankfully today came through. I know Cody, you were very heavy on him today in the early show. And we were nervous about him, but he came through. He eclipsed 100. He's come close to eclipsing 100 receiving yards now for 2 straight weeks. He hauled in 6 of 7 for 94 and a score today. He has now scored double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight games. Excuse me. And the Lions will play the Jets, Panthers, and Bears to close out the fantasy schedule. So they have a pretty favorable schedule. The Jets isn't as good, but then the Panthers and Bears should be pretty solid for them. So DJ Chark does make a lot of sense. I know Jameson Williams is getting a little bit more and more involved. He scored a touchdown today, was just left completely wide open, but he's just not seeing the field enough to really be a huge contributor. So DJ Chark, I think, is somebody you can definitely look to add. Zay Jones, this blows my mind that he was only rostered in 49% of leagues, so I added him on here. I'm sure in most really competitive leagues he has gone, but if he's not, I don't know why he wouldn't be. But he was targeted another 12 times today. He turned in that into 8 catches for 77 and a toe drag swag touchdown. And their real beatdown of the Titans today. He's a bit boomer bust, but the target share is definitely there. He's seeing 23% of the targets and averaging 8 targets per game. So nobody that's seeing that kind of opportunity should be available at all on waivers. And then the rest of these guys are kind of 12-team league and higher. McCole Hardman, he is expected to return this week. Andy Reid did confirm that before. I think it was Friday that Nicole Hardman is expected to return. You have to remember before his injury, he had 4 straight weeks of double-digit fantasy points prior to his injury. So, and there's been no real wide receiver step up past Juju Smith-Schuster. MBS has been terrible. Sky Moore just can't get anything going. Kadarius Toney, I guess I could have mentioned him as well. He looks like he will also return this upcoming week as well. So you should have all their wide receivers back. But McCole Hardman does seem like the guy that they try to get the ball in his hands in a lot of different creative ways, jet sweeps and all that kind of stuff. So McCole Hardman, 27%. He's definitely at least worth a look. Elijah Moore, been talking about him now for the past couple of weeks, but only rostered 27% of leagues. Targeted 10 times today, hauled in 6 for 60. He has been targeted 16 times over his last 2 games. It's a very favorable schedule moving forward with matchup against the Lions, Jags, and Seahawks. And then Isaiah McKenzie, he's going to be a little bit hard to trust, but in certain matchups, I think he will play. So I don't mind looking at somebody like him. Richie James is only rostered 1% of leagues. he's quietly, I get it, it's gross. It's a Giants wide receiver, but he's quietly put up some pretty decent numbers. 13, he scored 13 or more PPR points now in 3 of his last 4 games. Saw a team high 9 targets today. He turned that into 61 yards and a score. With so many injuries to this wide receiver room, I mean, the opportunities are going to continue to be there for somebody like Richie James. So, um, you could do worse. It does feel kind of gross, but it is what it is. And then the rest of these guys that I have on here, Julio Jones targeted 8 times today. This Bucks offense though was terrible. Chris Moore went out and had a big day today, to like 10 catches, 115 yards for Chris Moore. But I would expect probably Nico Collins and maybe Brandon Cooks to return, so that would probably relegate him. But if they don't, they do get a matchup against the Chiefs, who have struggled to stop posing wide receivers this year. We saw Jerry Jeudy today go off for 3 touchdowns in that game. So he could be an option for people this week. Demarcus Robinson, I don't know what to expect there with that quarterback room. We had Huntley leave with a concussion. Lamar Jackson, don't know if he's going to be ready to return or not. That's very thin. And then Hunter Renfrow, I want to put him on here. Rostered in 22% of leagues. Eligible return from the IR this week. Josh McDaniels talked last week that he could activate Renfrow and Darren Waller ahead of this. They're kind of on the outside looking in, making a playoff spot, especially after losing to the Rams on Thursday in just an embarrassing fashion. And Baker Mayfield, who have been there for less than 48 hours. But I think those are kind of all the guys you got to kind of take a look at. I put Darius Slayton on there as well. He was kind of right there at that 59%. I'm sure in most leagues he's been rostered, but if he happens to be sitting out there, he would be another option I think you could look at as the Giants' number 1 wide receiver.
Let's wrap it up with the tight end streaming options. Not a lot to like out here. Only a couple guys that I am excited about. First off, we're gonna talk about my guy Evan Ingram. I've been putting him on this list for it feels like the entire year, and he just absolutely balled today. Just a massive day from Evan Ingram. Now they get a matchup next week against Dallas, who looks good on paper against tight ends, but they've literally faced no top tight ends outside of Dallas Goedert and TJ Hawkinson. So obviously we're not going to expect anything close to what Ingram did today. But I think through the first like 7 or 8 weeks, he had no touchdowns. Now he has 3 in his past 2 weeks. So could be starting to come on here. But we've seen this kind of happen before with the Jags where, 1 week it'll be Christian Kirk who gets 12 targets. The next week it's Zay Jones. So Christian Kirk was left a little bit out of it today compared to Zay Jones and Evan Ingram. So he's going to come back down to earth, but he's definitely still worth a waiver wire stream. Tyler Conklin, they get a matchup against Detroit, which as it stands right now in the early lines, it is the highest point total we have next week. Conklin separated himself from CJ Uzomah when it comes to the passing game usage and routes run and things like that. But we've seen this happen before, so I don't want to read a ton into that. But regardless, it's gross at tight end. If Conklin's going to be the guy who's running routes for the Jets, he's worth a look. I know people are going to be excited about Chigo Okonkwo. We got a couple of questions about him on the Sunday morning show. He's going to be a popular name that's thrown out there, but he's still only playing 50% of the snaps. And that it's just really hard to trust someone like him on a team that doesn't want to throw if they don't have to. And the next 2 weeks set up as Derrick Henry smash weeks with the Chargers and Texans on deck. So I would rather have Evan Ingram. Hayden Hurst, if he is healthy, he missed this game with that calf injury. He left early 2 weeks ago, obviously with that same injury. If he is available, probably look to him, especially depending on what happens with the Bengals wide receivers. We had Boyd and T. Higgins go down, so they're super thin. So if Hayden Hurst is able to go next week, I think he makes a bunch of sense in terms of a streaming option. Do you have a question here from JR's over on Twitch? Who should I start for playoffs as my super flex, Geno or Goff?
I'd probably go Goff there. Neither one of them have great matchups, but Goff's a little bit better. So yeah, I would just lean towards Goff.
Yeah, that's tough, but I would go Goff as well. The test Appreciate you. Then what about Dobbs? He could return. Not entirely sure what his rostership is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he's going to be all that involved, to be honest. I mean, now with the emergence of Christian Watson, like a lot of things have changed since that injury, right? Christian Watson is bald, Alan Lazard. Then you have Randall Cobb, who's still out there running a lot of routes too. So he just doesn't really have a role now. I mean, he may see some targets, but he's not somebody that you have to go add now. I mean, Christian Watson has firmly grabbed that shit away from him. It is firmly Christian Watson the rest of
Yeah.
season. So Romeo Dobbs just really doesn't have much of a role. So that's why I didn't really add him on there. I don't think he's somebody that you really need to worry about.
Yeah, makes sense. And then just for people in case they noticed that Foster Moreau was not on the list, it seems like Darren Waller should be returning, which whatever, I guess. But obviously that if you had been rostering and streaming Foster Moreau the past couple of weeks, you can go ahead and drop him and look for a different option.
Yeah, I agree.
But
thankfully, though,
nope.
All I was going to say is, thankfully, though, this wasn't a really great week for waivers, right? Because nobody wants that heading into the fantasy playoffs. So I think relatively, we came out pretty well unscathed for this. Now, of course, there's still a half football left of this game and then tomorrow. So don't want to jinx anything. But as of right now, it looks like we're looking okay.
Tyreek Hill questionable return with an ankle injury.
See, I jinxed it.
Hopefully nothing else. Oh, never mind. Tyreek Hill did not miss any time. He's on the field. All right. I did see Jeff Wilson hip injury, questionable to return. So if for some reason Raheem Mostert is out there, you can go ahead and grab him too. But he's likely still already rostered.
Yeah.
But that will wrap it up. We will have our rankings coming out this week. I will have a defensive streamer video. Going to try and look forward to some of the, maybe if there's a defense out there, you can just pick up and stream throughout the playoffs. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. Please hit us with a sub and a like. Be here to answer all of your questions later in the week on Wednesday as well. Good luck to you. Let's get those dubs. It's playoff time. Talk to you soon.